You ever notice like how coffee makers seem to always have like the shortest cords possible?
All right,
It's
yeah.
like they just expect us to like huddle right next to the outlet first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
But you're already thinking ahead using an extension cord.
good for you.
So we want to make sure you're doing that safely. We've got this great article from Coffee a Corner.
Okay.
And it's like the ultimate coffee companion, this blog.
They really dive deep into all things coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a great point that they bring up about using extension cords with appliances,
Hmm.
especially ones that, heat up like our trusty coffee makers.
Right.
If we're not careful, there are some safety risks to think about.
Okay, now you've got me worried.
Oh, no.
What kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, the big one
Mm.
is making sure that your extension cord can handle the electrical load of your coffee maker.
Okay.
And that's where amperage comes in.
Amperage.
Yeah. Think of it as the amount of electrical flow that the cord can handle.
So kind of like a pipe carrying water.
Yes.
A bigger pipe can handle more water flow without bursting.
Exactly. And just like you wouldn't try to force a fire hose's worth of water through a garden hose,
Right.
you don't want to use an extension cord with too low of an amperage rating for your coffee maker.
Yeah.
It could overheat
Oh, no.
and in a worst case scenario, even become a fire hazard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's definitely a visual I won't forget.
Good.
So how do I know what amperage my coffee making needs? Do I have to go like digging through the manual?
Most coffee makers will have it conveniently printed on a label,
Okay.
usually somewhere on the bottom or near the cord.
Got it.
And you'll tell you the wattage and voltage, which you can use to calculate the amps.
Okay.
But to make it even easier, most extension cord packaging also lists the amperage rating.
Oh.
So you're just looking for a cord that meets or exceeds your coffee maker's needs.
Got it. Matching game.
Yes.
Coffee maker needs to extension cord capacity.
Yeah.
But here's a question. My coffee maker is pretty basic.
Okay.
Just a simple drip brewer.
Sure.
Does that mean I need like a heavy-duty extension cord?
Mm,
Or can I get away with a lighter one?
That's a smart question. Different coffee makers actually draw different amounts of power.
Okay.
So your basic drip coffee maker might only need 10 amps,
Okay.
while a fancy espresso machine with a built-in grinder could pull 15 amps or more.
Oh, wow. Okay, so if I ever upgrade to a super caffeinated espresso setup,
All right.
I need to upgrade my extension cord game too.
Exactly. Always best to check the specs and make sure everything's matched up safely.
Right.
And speaking of safety, the article also mentions surge protectors. Have you ever considered using one for your coffee maker?
Honestly, I usually just associate those with like computers and
Yeah.
electronics.
Mm.
Didn't even think about them for kitchen appliances.
They're a good idea for anything that plugs in.
Oh,
A power surge is basically a sudden spike in electricity, like a miniature lightning bolt zapping through your wiring.
wow.
They can happen for all sorts of reasons,
Yeah.
from storms to faulty appliances.
Oh, wow.
Even just turning on something big like your AC can cause
Wow.
a surge.
I had no idea they were that common.
Yeah, they can be.
So how does a surge protector help?
Think of it as a buffer.
Okay.
A surge protector diverts that excess voltage away from your appliances,
Right.
preventing damage. It's like having a bodyguard for your electronics,
Okay.
including your beloved coffee maker.
Yeah. Okay. Sign me up for the electronic bodyguard.
All right.
So besides the amperage and the surge protector, is there anything else I need to be mindful of when I'm choosing an outlet?
The article recommends sticking to standard household outlets whenever possible.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking, well, duh, where else would I plug it in?
Right.
But there's a good reason for this advice. It has to do with circuit overload,
Okay.
which is when you try to draw too much power from a single circuit. Each circuit in your house can only handle a certain amount of electricity at once.
So if I've got like the coffee maker, the toaster, and the blender all going at once,
Yeah.
and they're all plugged into the same circuit,
Yeah,
that's when I run into trouble.
exactly. That's when you might trip the breaker,
Uh-huh.
which is that annoying click in your electrical panel
Yes.
that shuts off half the power in your house.
Yeah, that always happens at like the worst possible moment.
I know.
So the breaker is basically like a safety valve that trips when things get too overloaded.
Precisely. It's designed to prevent wires from overheating,
Yeah.
potentially causing a fire.
Right.
It might seem inconvenient,
Yeah.
but it's a crucial safety feature.
Okay.
Oh.
Good to know it's there for a reason.
Yes.
But wait, wouldn't plugging a coffee maker into an extension cord make it more likely to overload a circuit? Since it's essentially adding another appliance to the mix.
That's where the right extension cord comes in again.
Yeah.
Remember that amperage rating. A higher rated cord can handle more current,
Okay.
so it's less likely to contribute to an overload.
Got it.
But, and this is the crucial point,
Yeah.
even the best extension cord doesn't magically increase the capacity of the circuit itself.
So I still need to be mindful of how many other appliances are sharing that same circuit,
Exactly.
even if I'm using a heavy-duty extension cord.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. The extension cord is like a stronger bridge,
Okay.
but it's still crossing the same river.
Yeah.
If you put too much weight on the bridge, it doesn't matter how strong it is.
Right.
The riverbank could still collapse.
Great analogy. I'm definitely starting to see the bigger picture here.
Good.
But speaking of different locations,
Yeah.
the article also mentions something about outdoor outlets.
Okay.
I'm a little confused. Why would I ever plug a coffee maker in outside?
It might seem counterintuitive,
It does.
but there's a clever safety tip behind this.
Okay.
They point out that outdoor outlets, especially those in shaded areas, can actually be safer for coffee makers in some cases.
Really? I would have thought like keeping it inside would be the safer option.
Right.
What's the logic behind that?
It all comes down to heat. Again, remember overheating is one of the main risks with extension cords.
Right.
If your indoor outlet is in a spot that gets a lot of direct sunlight,
Mm-hmm.
it can actually make the cord and the outlet itself hotter, increasing the risk of damage.
Wow.
An outdoor outlet, especially one that's well protected from the elements,
Right.
can help reduce that risk.
It's a great point. I have never even considered how like sunlight could affect the temperature of an outlet, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So an outdoor outlet in a shaded spot could actually keep things cooler and safer,
Yes.
especially in those hot summer months.
Exactly.
But what about like rain or other weather conditions? Wouldn't that be a safety hazard?
You're right to be cautious.
Yeah.
When using outdoor outlets, you absolutely need to make sure everything is weatherproofed. That means the outlet cover itself should be designed for outdoor use,
Got it.
and the extension cord should also be rated for outdoor use.
Okay.
You don't want any water sneaking in and causing a short circuit.
Definitely not. Safety first, whether we're talking indoor or outdoor outlets. Now let's talk about cord management.
Okay.
Because this is where things got really interesting for me. The article gave some specific advice that kind of blew my mind.
Right.
It said not to wrap the cord tightly around the coffee maker,
Uh-huh.
which is something I've always done.
Oh.
What's the deal with that?
I know, it seems so
It
counterintuitive,
does.
right? We're all about keeping things neat and tidy.
Right.
But in this case, tight wrapping can actually be a safety hazard. It all comes back to that pesky heat buildup we've been talking about.
Okay, you got my attention. Explain how a neatly wrapped cord
Right.
could be a problem.
When you wrap the cord tightly, especially if it's still warm from use,
Okay.
it can trap heat and potentially damage the insulation.
Yeah.
Over time, that damage can lead to frayed wires or even a short circuit,
Yeah.
increasing the risk of a fire.
I never thought about that. So all this time I thought I was being organized, but I was actually creating a potential fire hazard.
It's a common mistake.
Okay, so what's the right way to handle the cord if we can't wrap it tightly?
The article has a really simple and effective solution. Loosely wrap the cord with some tape at the ends.
Okay.
That'll prevent tangles and keep things neat without creating a heat trap.
Oh, that's such a simple but brilliant solution. I'm definitely adopting that trick from now on.
Good.
It's amazing how much I've learned about extension cord safety just from this deep dive.
Right.
I feel like I'm leveling up my coffee game already.
Good.
Speaking of leveling up, are we ready to move on to part 2 of this deep dive?
Let's do it. I've got some more coffee knowledge brewing that you won't want to miss.
Awesome. Let's go.
Get ready for some practical tips that will have you brewing like a pro.
Perfect.
All right, coffee lover. Are you ready for round 2?
I think so. Hit me.
We've covered like the electrical safety basics,
Right.
but the Coffee at Corner article goes beyond just amperage and surge protectors.
Okay.
They also have some practical tips for using extension cords with coffee makers, which I think you'll find really helpful.
Okay, practical tips. Like where to put the coffee maker and the cord.
Yeah,
Because let's be honest, like kitchen counter space is prime real estate.
you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It's about creating a setup that's both safe and convenient.
Right.
And that starts with choosing the right spot for your coffee maker.
So where's the ideal location? Tucked away in a corner to like keep it out of sight, or front and center like the star of the show?
Well, it depends on, your kitchen layout and your personal preferences.
Right.
But the article emphasizes the importance of giving your coffee maker some breathing room, even when using an extension cord.
Okay, that makes sense. I wouldn't want to like cram it into a tiny space where it can't ventilate properly.
Yeah.
But is there more to it than just like airflow?
Exactly. It's also about preventing accidents. Imagine you're rushing around in the morning half asleep reaching for your coffee mug.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I swear I'm still dreaming, even after I've poured my first cup.
Right. And in that sleepy haze, you accidentally bump the extension cord,
Oh, no.
pulling the whole coffee maker down with it.
Yeah.
Not exactly the best way to start the day.
Oh, that's like a nightmare scenario. Broken coffee maker, hot coffee everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely see the value of giving it some space.
Right. So think about where you're placing your coffee maker and the path of the extension cord.
Right.
Make sure it's not in like a high traffic area where someone could trip over it
Right.
or accidentally knock it loose. And while we're on the subject of spills, the article also highlights the importance of keeping the cord away from any water sources,
Mm.
like the sink.
I have to admit, I've been guilty of that in the past.
Yeah,
It's easy to forget about the cord once the coffee maker's plugged in. Out of sight, out of mind, as they say.
it's a common oversight, but mixing water and electricity is never a good idea, so make sure the cord is high and dry.
Okay.
And if it has to cross any paths where like spills might happen,
Yeah.
consider using cord clips or ties to secure it to a countertop or cabinet.
Those are great tips. I'm all about anything that helps keep cords organized and out of the way. It's like a constant battle against cable chaos in my kitchen. Any other practical gems from the article that can help me win that battle?
They also recommend inspecting the extension cord regularly
Mm-hmm.
for any signs of damage.
Okay.
It's easy to assume that once it's plugged in, it's good to go, but cords can take a beating over time.
Okay, that makes sense. But what kind of damage should I be looking for?
Things like frayed wires, cuts in the insulation, bent prongs,
Right.
basically anything that looks out of place or
Yeah.
compromised.
Yeah.
If you spot any damage, it's best to replace the cord right away.
Yeah.
It's not worth risking a safety hazard.
Right. A damaged cord is like a ticking time bomb just waiting to cause trouble.
It's exactly.
But how often should I be checking it? Is this like a weekly chore, a monthly thing, or more like whenever I remember kind of deal?
They recommend at least a quick visual inspection once a month.
Okay.
And, of course, if the cord gets a lot of wear and tear or if you notice any potential damage, it's always best to err on the side of caution and check it more frequently. It only takes a minute, and it could save you a lot of trouble down the road.
That's a good reminder. I'm definitely guilty of neglecting my cords.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind, right? But speaking of cleaning, do they mention anything about cleaning the cord itself? I feel like that's something I should be doing,
Yeah,
but it never really crosses my mind.
that's a great point. While they don't get into specifics about cleaning the cord, it's something worth considering.
Okay.
Dust, grime, even coffee residue can build up on the cord over time.
Yeah.
Especially if it's near the coffee maker, which, let's be honest, tends to attract a bit of a messy aura.
Oh, tell me about it. Between the coffee grounds, the water drips, and the occasional splash of milk, my
Yeah.
coffee station can get pretty chaotic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So giving the cord a quick wipe down with a damp cloth every now and then is a good idea.
Okay.
Not only will it keep things tidy, but it can also help prevent any potential fire hazards from dust buildup.
Okay.
And while you're at it, check the prongs
Hmm.
for any coffee residue or buildup. You'd be surprised how much gunk can accumulate there.
Ugh, I don't even want to imagine what's lurking in those crevices.
Yeah.
But I will for the sake of safety and a clean coffee setup. It's amazing how something as simple as an extension cord can lead to so many insightful cleaning tips. So to recap, we've covered the importance of choosing the right outlet.
Yeah.
It's giving the coffee maker some space, keeping the cord away from water, inspecting it regularly for damage,
Uh-huh.
and even giving it a good cleaning every now and then. What else is there to consider?
There's one more crucial point that ties back to something we talked about earlier. The importance of not overloading circuits. The article emphasizes that this is especially important when you're using multiple appliances in the kitchen, which, let's face it, is pretty much always the case.
Oh, for sure. My kitchen counter's like appliance central every morning. The coffee maker, the toaster, the blender, they
Yeah.
all want in on the breakfast action.
Right.
But what does this have to do with extension cords? Isn't it just about being careful with how many things I plug into a single outlet?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. Even if your coffee maker is on its own dedicated circuit,
Okay.
using an extension cord could potentially put it on the same circuit as other appliances, depending on how your house is wired.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. So even if I'm being careful not to overload a single outlet,
Yeah.
I could still be inadvertently overloading a circuit if I'm not paying attention to what else is plugged in nearby.
Exactly. It's like a domino effect. You might think you're being safe by plugging your coffee maker into an extension cord.
Right.
but it's connected to an outlet across the room.
Yeah.
But if that outlet shares a circuit with your toaster oven,
Oh.
you could still end up tripping the breaker.
That's a great point. It's like a hidden web of connections that I
Yeah.
need to be aware of. So it sounds like the key is to be mindful of what's plugged in, not just in the immediate vicinity of the coffee maker, but also on the same circuit throughout the kitchen.
Exactly. It's all about understanding how your home's electrical system is laid out
Right.
and being strategic about where you plug in your appliances. You don't want to trigger a breaker party in the middle of making breakfast.
Definitely not. I'd much rather have a coffee party than a breaker party anyway. But speaking of parties, are we ready to move on to the grand finale of this deep dive?
Yes.
I'm feeling so much more knowledgeable about coffee makers and extension cords. I'm practically a coffee electrician at this point.
You're well on your way.
Hmm.
And I've got one last nugget of wisdom to share. That'll take your coffee game to the next level.
Okay.
This one's less about the technical details
Okay.
and more about like the bigger picture of our relationship with coffee.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Okay, I'm all ears. What's this final nugget of wisdom that's going to like elevate my coffee game?
Well, we've talked a lot about like the how of using coffee makers.
Right.
The safety, the practical tips, the electrical ins and outs.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's also worth reflecting on the why.
Okay.
Why do we go through all this effort for a cup of coffee?
Mm-hmm.
What is it about this beverage that has captivated humanity for centuries?
That's a great question. It's definitely more than just a caffeine fix for me.
Yeah.
There's something about that morning ritual,
Yeah.
the aroma filling the kitchen,
Right.
the warmth of the mug in my hands.
Yeah.
It's comforting, almost meditative.
Exactly. It's a sensory experience,
Yeah.
a moment of pause in our busy days.
Right.
But it also connects us to something larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Think about the journey that those coffee beans took to get to your cup.
Hmm.
The farmers who cultivated them, the regions they were grown in,
Right.
the global trade routes they traveled.
Wow. I never really thought about it on that scale. It's like a whole world contained within each bean.
It is. And our deep dive today, while focused on a seemingly simple topic like extension cords,
Right.
has actually touched upon some of those bigger themes.
Yeah.
Talked about electricity, about safety, about
Right.
mindful consumption,
Right.
and even about like the simple act of creating a space in our homes for something we enjoy.
It's amazing how something as everyday as a coffee maker can spark such like profound reflections.
Isn't it? And
Ugh.
that's the beauty of knowledge,
Yeah.
of taking a deep dive into a subject and uncovering all the connections, the implications, and the possibilities that lie beneath the surface.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners today? What do you hope they'll ponder as they sip their next cup of joe?
I hope they'll savor that cup with a newfound appreciation, not just for the taste and the aroma,
Right.
but for the intricate web of factors that brought it to their table.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe,
Yeah.
it'll spark a curiosity to explore some of those connections further.
To learn more about like the origins of their favorite coffee beans,
Yeah.
the sustainable farming practices that protect the environment,
Right.
or even to experiment with different brewing methods that minimize their energy footprint.
Exactly. Because knowledge, like a good cup of coffee, is best enjoyed when it's shared,
Yeah.
explored, and savored to the fullest.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. The next time you reach for that coffee maker,
Yeah.
take a moment to appreciate the journey it represents,
Right.
from the bean to the cup and all the connections in between.
Happy brewing, everyone, and until next time,
Yes.
keep diving deep.